Hello all dear web designers, I'm going to show you how to modify the design of a WordPress page with the help of the Anym Live Editor plugin. This one will allow you to modify the CSS of the pages you want in a simple, fast and optimized way. First, you will need to download the Anym Live Editor plugin available on live.anym.fr, then install it on your WordPress site. So, on your website, go to the page you want to modify. Here I choose to modify the checkout page. To start, we'll open the Anym Live Editor, which is in the admin bar of WordPress. It opens a new browser window, which allows us to work on several screens simultaneously. For this video, of course, I will reduce the size and leave it on the screen. We are going to do a search to find the class of the page that is WooCommerce Checkout. So for that, we're gonna type body into the search input. It is now showing us the whole hierarchy of the page. So we right-click to select the item that contains the class we are looking for, and then we import it. Now I delete everything that doesn't interest me. This plugin allows us to edit the code either in CSS, sass or SCSS. But in order to show you as well as possible the functionalities, I will code here only in SCSS. There is also the possibility to code in JavaScript, which I will present in a future video. So here is the block we are gonna redesign for the example. So to target this block, I click on this little button. I'm going to look for the element I want to modify. It's better to take a lighter wider, targeting a parent element instead, so that we can then choose more precisely the element we want to modify. I import it with a right click and import this node. Now I am able to edit the selected block and inject CSS rules between the braces. So I'm going to add a color to the background. To define a color, I can click here. To open a very practical tool when we do design, so a very basic color picker, but with the particularity of modifying in live the selected hexadecimal code. Then I'm going to put a padding of 15 pixels, then a border radius of 10 pixels, and add a little shadow, so box shadow. So of course, if you're not too familiar with CSS, you can find all the CSS rules on the W3 School website, or by doing a search on Google. You will have no trouble finding the effect you're looking for right away. I am currently using the flat sum theme, which is quite light and has a good basis to start the design already. So now I would like to modify the design of all input inside this block. As you can see, there is a little shadow that is not looking very nice, so I'm gonna remove it. We first have to target the input, then write box shadow, none. Let's also add some border when we click on the input, so focus and border 2 pixels, solid, and we add a color, which is gonna be our theme color. Let's choose purple. Well, I find that the transitions are looking a bit weird. I'm going to modify them by adding some transition rule. Yeah, this looks better. Let's also change the little asterisks and put them in the color of my theme, so I select the element and I import it into my code. So of course you have to import it in the right place. For that you have to think about placing your input cursor beforehand. It will be the same color I had put on the focus, so we copy it. As you can see, it automatically changed. So a particularity of the Anym Live Editor is the organization of the code in different files or folders. So I'm going to create a new file that I'm going to call mixins, so there's no need to add any extensions. This new file will allow us to import code that we could use in other places. I'm going to create my first mixin, which I call block. And then I'm going to take all the CSS rules that I previously wrote for my block. So I'm going to cut it all out and paste it into the mixin. Before being able to include this mixin, I will have to import it into my code. So I go to the index file, and before my code, I write @import and the name of the file. And now it's taken into account, so I can make an include of the mixin in question at the place I want, so include block. Mixins can be very useful when you are using CSS rules that are usually used together. Then I'm going to create a new file called colors. and I'm going to include some color variables. So let's start with the background color of my blocks. I will call it beige. I'm just going to take the color I previously wrote for the block, and I'm going to define the variable with that color. I'm also going to create a new variable that I'm going to call theme, and I'm also going to apply to it a color that I already used twice in my code. So I could then have control of that color from one place in the code. So don't forget to import our file colors. It has to be before mixin if you want to use them in mixin file. Now I will be able to replace the hexadecimal colors using only the variables I just created. I can also do Ctrl D to change both of them at the same time. As you can see, I change the colors directly from my color file, which is a real time saver when you want to create homogeneity in your design. By the way, I like to show you how the plugin handles code errors. So I'll voluntarily create an error. And now you can see that changing colors doesn't work anymore. It's like our code is bugged. So I'm going to press on this button check code. I can notice that there is a SCSS error. It tells me the row 3 of the mixin files. I will then go check on the place in question, and indeed, there is in fact a semicolon error. So obviously remember to look at the previous lines, because error can sometimes appear upstream. And if I do a check code again, we can see that this time the console tells us that there is no error. To go further in the readability of the code, we can arrange in a clear way the code that only concerns the checkout page. So I create a new folder that I name WooCommerce, and I add a new file that I call checkout. Now I'll cut the whole part that concerns the checkout page and paste it into the checkout file. To import a file into a folder, we just have to write its entire path using slashes. Alright, now to get some optimization made, I would also like to show you some tools we have at our disposal. So when you click on Minify CSS, you will get a render of the compilation, which will be automatically minified. In case you want to get your code into a physical file to be able to load it statically, you can go to the Import Export section, check Minify to get your code minified, and download your CSS. Here is our compiled and minified CSS file that we can now load in our theme. And to go even further, if we don't want to create a child theme, there is an option offered by the Anym Live Editor plugin to load a physical style file. To do so, go to the WordPress option of the Anym Live Editor plugin. And here you can paste the URL of the location of your CSS file. It could be loaded from the media library or even a CDN. It doesn't really matter as long as the URL is valid. Remember to disable the inline style, which will have the effect of no longer loading the dynamic CSS of the plugin. These completely optional operations are only useful if you want to improve the optimization and speed of loading. Do them only when your CSS will not change anymore. If you still have change to make, the plugin will still work in the same way, and you can still modify your code with a live preview. However, it will no longer be loaded on the pages your visitors are going to view, or at least as long as the option remains disabled. You will then have to restart the export, or reactivate the inline style option. Alright, it's the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope it was very useful. See you soon.